So this is Alchemy 2. Last week we had Introduction to Alchemy, and this is a continuation of that course. Today we are going to go over the philosophy and ideology of alchemy. We are going to talk about some of the founders of alchemy. We are going to talk about their core ideologies, and we are also going to talk about where a lot of alchemical design comes from, and the different cultures that it comes from, as well as the different philosophies and ideologies that it comes from all over the world. First, before we start, since I know that a lot of you were not at the introduction class, does somebody want to answer the question, what is alchemy? You can go ahead and unmute yourself or answer in the chat, whatever you would like, but what is alchemy? Let's see, we have an answer in the chat. The art of transformation. I love it. Yes, that is a great description of what alchemy is. Does anyone have anything else?
Yeah, I have an idea.
Yes. What is alchemy?
Isn't it the combination of two or more elements? I guess it goes beyond elements. Anyways, two or more different elements or minerals to create a new, like a completely new element.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
That is a great description. Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Janelle answered in the chat, philosophy that applies chemistry and magic to change one substance to another substance. Yes, I love that. Definitely.
Oh my gosh.
Be that physical or spiritual transformation. Yes. Awesome. So I think all of you covered it pretty well. Yes, it is the change of one form of matter and transforming it into another form of matter. And but there is a lot more to it. That is the basis of it. But of course, that is talking both metaphysical, spiritual, as well as physical. So when we get into the physical aspects of that, we get into a lot of chemistry. When we get into the spiritual aspects of that, we get into a lot more than chemistry. And so today we are going to talk about how that idea was applied, and also how it's been around for thousands of years, and who are some of the people who first coined the term, and who were some of the very first people considered to be alchemists. So first we have Paracelsus. I think that is how you pronounce his name. I have only read about him. I have never heard his name pronounced. So I've always pronounced it Paracelsus, but it might be Paracelsus. Probably Paracelsus. Anyway, according to Paracelsus, and we are going to talk in the next slide about who he is, what he does, what he believed, why he's important. But the three primes, or tria prima, of which material substances are immediately composed are sulfur or soul, the principle of combustibility, mercury or spirit, the principle of fusibility, and volatility, salt or body, the principle of non-combustibility and non-volatility. So First, I guess before we get into who he is and what all of this means, does anybody think they know what it means? Does anybody know who Paracelsus is? And does anybody know what this means? This is one of his very famous quotes. This is the entire backbone of his practice of alchemy, chemistry, and of his contribution to the medical field. Oh, is it Paracelsus? Thank you, Paracelsus. Cool, good to know. Since you know how to pronounce his name, Paul, does that mean you know about his philosophies and his teachings? Can you tell me a little bit about who he is and what sulfur, mercury, and salt meant to him, and what everything I just read to you means? Awesome. Yeah, I knew what you meant.
Ahora sí, quién sabe. Después de marzo. Después de marzo. Sí, sí, porque tiene algo que hacer en marzo. Sí.
Okay, so let's get into it. So, who is Paracelsus? He was a pioneer in several aspects of the medical revolution of the Renaissance, emphasizing the value of observation in combination with received wisdom. So for those of you who don't know, back, especially before the Renaissance period in Europe specifically, other places around the world had actually made a lot more medical advancements than Germany at the time. And that is where he lived, was Germany. But the medical field was not only rudimentary, but the techniques that they used to cure certain illnesses didn't really have any basis in research or in anything at all. They didn't really know what they were doing, and we make a lot of jokes nowadays about the really hilarious things that they used to do in order to cure illness and disease. And so Paracelsus was one of the first documented people in Germany to start discussing the value of received wisdom, of researching a medical topic, researching a disease, researching an illness, and passing down observations of that illness, writing down observations, and calculating every single thing that you could about the illness, writing it down, and passing that on to the next doctor and to the next doctor and to the next doctor, so that you weren't only trying to cure disease in the now, but you were hoping that a doctor 15 years from now could cure this disease because of all of the observation and scientific work that you did on that illness and all of the data that you retrieved from studying the illness itself. So he is credited as the father of toxicology. Paracelsus also had a substantial influence as a prophet or a diviner. His prognostications being studied by Rosicrucians in the 1600s. Paracelsianism is the early modern medical movement inspired by the study of his works. So he also, something that he was very famous for back during the Renaissance in Germany, was that he paired medicine with spirituality. Now, of course, this had been done long before this, because obviously a lot of the doctors were the priests and the pastors and the different religious people. But the way that he did it was very special. The way that he did it did not only take into consideration Christianity, and the way that he did it also was much more strict when it came to the scientific aspect of it, because he did not believe that God thought that science was evil, where a lot of people back then thought that the Christian church, as well as God, thought that science was evil because the Christian church had persecuted a lot of scientists. And he believed that God did not find science to be evil, that medical practitioners should focus a lot harder on chemistry, and that we should learn to understand the elements that make up the human body. Awesome. Thank you, Paul. I did know that that was his first name. I didn't know that a lot of his schooling was from his father, though. Cool. Thank you. As a physician of the early 16th century, Paracelsus held a natural affinity with Hermetic, Neoplatonic, and Pythagorean philosophies, central to the Renaissance, a worldview exemplified by Marsilio Ficino and Pico della Mirandola. I think that's how you would say that. So, something else that I want to bring up. We are going to be going over a lot today. Things are going to be very heavy, and I am trying really hard to explain it all and go as slow as possible and really introduce the people and the philosophies that we are talking about today. Does anybody know what Hermeticism is? Or what Hermetic philosophies would have been? And if so, please let us know and tell me what you think it is. Please feel free to answer in chat or unmute yourself and talk. And also, like, we are all beginners. Please tell me what you think it is. If you've heard this term before, don't be worried about being wrong. It's totally fine. We are all the students in this class are all beginners, so don't worry. That's a wonderful guess. I can totally see where you would get that too, because herb being the root word. Hermetic, though, no, it does not mean plant-based, but that is a wonderful guess. Thank you so much.
It's a system that is based on 7 key principles. There are what they call the 7 laws. Some people attribute it going back to Thoth. There you go. The law of mentalism, correspondence, vibration. Yeah, it relates to the 7 main principles, and it's more of a course in self-mastery by using these 7 laws, is my understanding.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. It is. So, Hermeticism. So these are the 7 laws. Great question. I'm so sorry. Your name still comes up as iPhone on here, so I'm going to call you iPhone. But, so these are the 7 Hermetic. Kim, thank you. Awesome. Hi, Kim. I did. I flipped over a few slides just because Paul was giving us the definition of Hermeticism, and he was mentioning the 7 Hermetic laws. So I figured I would skip to the slide in the presentation that showed off the 7 Hermetic laws. Don't worry, we're going to go back. I know I'm jumping around here. So Hermeticism, the 7 Hermetic laws. So this concept obviously was around long before the Renaissance in Germany, which is why this was already a philosophy held by many of the people who practiced divine magic back then, as well as a lot of the alchemists and medical practitioners and chemists. These were, especially back then, seen as some of the main secret laws of the universe. And it is a mix of Egyptian and Greek philosophy and magic, as well as philosophy as well. Yeah, magic and philosophy, and also a lot of lure and a lot of myths surrounding different Egyptian magic. But the 7 Hermetic laws are the law of mentalism, law of correspondence, the law of vibration, the law of polarity, the law of rhythm, the law of gender, and the law of cause and effect. So we will go over these laws a lot more once we get to these slides in the presentation. But just so you know, when I discuss and talk about how the founders of alchemy, especially high alchemy, that they already practiced Hermeticism, this is what I am talking about. And we will discuss how Hermeticism was born as well. So let's go back to the slide that we were on. So, astrology was a very important part of Paracelsus's medicine, and he was a practicing astrologer, as were many of the university-trained physicians working at the time in Europe. Paracelsus devoted several sections in his writing to the construction of astrological talismans for curing disease. He largely rejected the philosophies of Aristotle and Galen, as well as the theory of Humerus. Although he did accept the concept of the 4 elements as water, air, fire, and earth, he saw them merely as a foundation for other properties on which to build. Yep, exactly. We're getting there, but thank you, Paul. Yep, that's exactly where it came from. And yes, Egyptians were brilliant. Almost every single form of magic and divination and mysticism and esoteric anything and metaphysics, a huge chunk of the core of everything that we know today came from ancient Egypt. So, Paracelsus was one of the first medical professors to recognize that physicians required a solid academic knowledge in the natural sciences, especially chemistry. Paracelsus pioneered the use of chemicals and minerals in medicine. From his study of the elements, Paracelsus adopted the idea of tripartite alternatives to explain the nature of medicines, which he thought to be composed of the tria prima, the 3 primes, which we already discussed in the previous slide. A combustible element, sulfur, a fluid and changeable element, mercury, and a solid permanent element, salt. The first mention of the mercury-sulfur-salt model was in the Opus Paramerum, dating to about 1530. Paracelsus believed that the principles, sulfur, mercury, and salt, contained poisons contributing to all diseases. He saw each disease as having 3 separate cures, depending on how it was afflicted, either being caused by the poisoning of sulfur, mercury, or salt. Paracelsus drew the importance of sulfur, salt, and mercury from medieval alchemy, where they all occupied a prominent place. He demonstrated his theory by burning a piece of wood. The fire was the work of sulfur, the smoke was mercury, and the residual ash was salt. Paracelsus also believed that mercury, sulfur, and salt provided a good explanation for the nature of medicine, because each of these properties existed in many physical forms. So as you can tell, when we talk about mercury, sulfur, and salt, we are not literally, we are. In some cases, we are literally talking about the element mercury, the element sulfur, and the element salt. And in some cases, we are talking metaphorically, as with the explanation of the wood. So the fire, as we know today, is not the work of sulfur. The smoke is coming off of it is not mercury, and the ash coming off the wood is not literally the chemical salt. But a lot of these rudimentary terms and the way that he talked about this, and even the tria prima, is still used today in both high alchemy as well as alchemy in general. We are going to talk about how. Like I said, I know this is a lot. There's a whole bunch that I have to explain before you are going to get even why the tria prima is so important. But I promise it'll all make sense, either after this class or after a couple classes. Please make sure to ask questions when you're confused. So the next alchemist that we are going to talk about is Ji Hong. But first, before we get there, does anybody have any questions about Paracellus? Paracelsus. I keep saying his name wrong. Like I said, I've read about this for like 25 years, but when you've only read something and you've never read it out loud or said it out loud, it's funny how you realize you've been pronouncing things wrong in your head. But yes, anyway, does anybody have any questions about Paracelsus? It is. Egyptian magic and esoteric knowledge is amazing. Agreed. So on the other side of the world, we have the alchemist, Ji Hong. So Ji Hong wholeheartedly believed that anyone, through unrelenting effort and study, could obtain immortality. One does not have to be either rich or powerful to do so. In fact, wealth and position are harmful because they inhibit one from attaining the necessary moral and physical serenity. Moreover, it is not up to the arbitrary decisions of deities to extend our lives. They are merely divine administrators who keep track of our sins and good deeds. Consequently, sacrifices and prayers to them for this purpose are useless. Thus, whether one can obtain immortality is entirely based on his or her own diligence and determination. It was precisely for those educated people who wanted and were willing to work towards obtaining immortality that Ji wrote his inner chapters. The overriding importance that he attached to obtaining eternal life is evident in that the inner, and thereby his most important chapters of his magnum opus, were dedicated to the topic. So Ji Hong is widely known as an incredible alchemist. And his whole thing was that he believed that there was a way to obtain immortality. And that he wrote many, many books on how to obtain immortality. There are even stories where people think that he succeeded. That the way in which he achieved immortality was learning how to leave his physical body consciously. So a lot of witches and people who practice magic will talk about leaving your body, whether they talk about astral projection, they talk about traveling, they talk about lucid dreaming, they talk about all different ways that you can leave your physical body. It is said that Ji Hong left his physical body and he did it consciously, and he continues to this day to live an immortal life without the need for a physical body. So Ji Hong firmly believed that physical immortality was possible. This is because all things are permeated by the metaphysical oneness. One, the mystery, which creates and animates all things. Significantly for Ji, one, is synonymous with the words Tao, the way, the ultimate reality, and Yi, the one, the unity. In this light, he describes Wan in the following manner. It carries within it the embryo of the original one. It forms and shapes the two principles, yin and yang. It exhales and absorbs the great Genesis. It inspires and transforms the multitude of species. It makes constellations go round. It shaped the premortal darkness. It guides the wonderful mainspring of the universe. It exhales the four seasons. If one adds to it, it does not increase. If one takes away from it, it does not grow less. If something is given to it, it is not increased in glory. If something is taken from it, it does not suffer. Where the mystery is present, joy is infinite. Where the mystery has departed, efficiency is exhausted and the spirit disappears. So that was starting with the quotation marks where I wrote, and on the website will be all of the references for all of his books and all of the books that I use to give you information on all of the alchemists that we are talking about today. And you can read a lot of his works. His works are amazing. His books are awesome. I love his teachings. He is one of my favorite alchemists. But it's very deep. From that quote that I read you, it starts here with the quotations. Oh, I can't highlight it, huh? Haha. Yes, I can. Cool. So it starts here, and then of course ends at the end. Does anybody have any idea what he's talking about or what that means? Or has anybody learned about the mystery or Juan? Specifically from Ji Hong.
I feel like I've heard some of this somewhere before, but I don't remember what it is. Like I remember Dao and Yi, which I'm sure this isn't the only source that those words are used, but it seems very familiar.
Yes, you can tell that he is somebody who studies and practices Taoism and Taoism, which is probably another place in which you might have heard those terms be used.
Okay.
Or you heard it from reading about alchemy, which is also something that definitely could have happened because he is a very, very famous alchemist. Something that you'll hear a lot when you start studying alchemy is these alchemists that wanted to achieve immortality. Same with if you watch a TV show that might include alchemy. If you're into anime and you've ever watched Full Metal Alchemist, if you have ever watched anything that is in media that follows alchemy, usually they're either talking about turning things into gold or achieving immortality. And yes, you're right, Paul, only in relation to Taoist alchemy. And yes, of course, I've watched Full Metal Alchemist. We're watching a clip from it in this class. But okay, yeah, so please go back and read this over and over again. This quote from his writings and from his book is very important. I read it to you, but I know that me reading it to you once is not going to help these words sink in. So please, on your own, right now, I'm going to give you just a second to read through that quote. Read through this one more time before we go on to the next slide. And see if you can grasp a little bit more of what he is trying to say. If you need to ask questions, talk about it. Do you know what yin and yang are? Have you heard of the idea of oneness when it comes to metaphysics? Or the idea of the mystery and creating the mainspring of the universe?
Alex,
Yes.
will we be going on to the 5 phases?
In the next class, not this one.
Okay.
Yes, I can't wait for that though. I had so much more in this class, and then I realized I had to slow down. Because I'm gonna go way over people's heads if I go too fast.
Okay. You understood what I meant, so that's enough of that conversation.
I love talking to you about alchemy. I know, I hate that I've been so busy. We definitely need to have another awesome conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. So, Ji Hong's alchemy teachings and philosophies. So, oh, my little annotation stayed there. Hold on. Clear. Clear all drawings. Okay. So, in other words, the key to immortality is maintaining this everlasting oneness within oneself. If one cannot do so, he or she will soon die. The reason why people lose it is that they become attached through their desires to the outside world, thereby forgetting the jewel that resides within. As Ji put it, the way of one is obtained within oneself, but is lost due to things outside oneself. Those who employ one are gods. Those who forget it are merely empty vessels. So, in this picture, this picture is going to be in many of the classes. So this slideshow right here will be on the website tonight. I encourage you to save this image, screenshot it, print it, save it, whatever you want, because this is going to be a very important image going forward. When we talk about the different, number one, the different organs and parts of the body that are affected by different elements and how one plays a part in every single one of our organs according to Ji Hong's alchemy teachings. We are, of course, going to go over many, many, many different alchemy teachings. But this specific image is very important when we go over the alchemy teachings of Ji Hong. So keep it in mind as we move forward. How does one maintain the unity within oneself? For Ji Hong, it had much to do with preserving, enhancing, and refining one's ki, which for him embodied the metaphysical mystery. Ki, which originally meant breath or vapor, came to designate the vital energy that exists within and animates all things. As Ji Hong relates, people reside within ki, and ki resides within people. Sorry. Okay. From heaven and earth down to the 10,000 things, each one requires ki to live. As for those who excel at circulating their ki, internally they are able to nourish their body. Internally they are able to repel illness. Since each person receives a finite amount of ki at birth, he recommends various methods to retain and enhance it, which include breathing exercises, sexual techniques, calisthenics, dietary restrictions, and the ingestion of herbal medicines. Since none of these methods is infallible, he recommends that an adept should practice a number of them in combination with each other. By doing so, one protects oneself from manifold disasters, such as illness, demons, savage beasts, and weapons, while also lessening desires, transforming the body, and extending one's lifespan. These methods could even give their practitioners supernatural powers, such as curing illness, raising the dead, seeing the future, commanding the gods and ghosts, or foregoing food for years and the ability to disappear. So, yes, there are actually a lot of documentation. There is a lot of documentation that was made by Ji Hong that says that a lot of his students and a lot of the people who worked with him and who followed his practices were able to do some pretty amazing things. Now, it's all kind of whether or not you believe that this is possible, whether or not you believe that by using this form of alchemy, this form of magic, that you can do any of these things. But his students believed you could. And there is a lot of documentation to show practitioners of this having supernatural powers, curing illness, raising the dead, seeing the future, commanding gods and ghosts, foregoing food for years, and the ability to disappear, as well as achieving immortality. Has it ever been scientifically documented? Obviously not. But it is still really, really cool to read his writings and to hear about the different accounts that he has of people who followed his practices and followed his teachings being able to do all of this. Thank you, Paul. Yep. You should actually be able to find a lot of information on him just by looking up Ji Hong. Also, I'm going to give you a list of further reading that you can do. It will be located on the website so that you can read all about Ji Hong. You can read all of his books. And you can also see where I got all of the information here. A lot of the slideshows that I create are just me talking and me writing information that just comes from my head. This is not one of them. I got this information from a book, and I am going to cite the book underneath this slideshow on the website so that you guys can all see all my references and my citations. So we are moving on to Hermeticism because there is two things that these two alchemists have in common. From completely different sides of the world. We had Paracelsus from Germany, and we have Ji Hong from China. And they both had a firm understanding of Hermeticism, and both had teachers and mentors who practiced Hermeticism. And as we talked about before, Hermeticism is a philosophical system that is primarily based on the purported teachings of Hermes, a legendary Hellenistic combination of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth. So a lot of people pronounce Thoth, Thoth. It's actually pronounced Thoth. I wasn't going to try with Hermes' last name. Once again, I've only read that word. Trismegistus. Trismegistus? Yeah. But, so this is a combination of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth. These teachings are contained in the various writings attributed to Hermes, the Hermetica, which were produced over a period spanning many centuries, 300 BCE through 1200 CE, and may be different in context, content, and scope. So Hermeticism, if you ever hear people use that word, know that this is a teaching, a philosophy that has been edited, it has traveled all over the world. Obviously, we have two alchemists from two completely different sides of the world that both have Hermeticism in common. It is not something that necessarily has one single ideology. It is not something that has one single dogma. It is huge and enormous, and there are different cultures that practice Hermeticism in a completely different way than another culture. There are cults all over the world that have practiced Hermeticism. A lot of the witchcraft that we practice today stems from Hermeticism. A lot of the esoteric cults, such as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, obviously has practices in Hermeticism. Aleister Crowley practiced Hermeticism. Hermeticism is found in mysticism all over the world and has been for thousands of years. So it is very large, and it takes years and years and years and years to even scrape the surface of what Hermeticism is. And there are a lot of people who even think that only certain high up people within the Hermeticism community even have access to some of the writings and teachings from famous people who practiced Hermeticism and the magic within Hermeticism. And a lot of times high alchemy is gatekept by Hermeticism. So when you start to learn about high alchemy, you will start to learn that there are high alchemists that hold secrets that you are not allowed to know, and writings that have never been published and that have never been seen by the public. And a lot of it is Hermeticism. The Masons talked a lot about Hermeticism. Yeah. So Hermeticism is a very large philosophical ideology and philosophical system, but it's huge. And it doesn't come from one culture. Number one, I mean, it stems from Greek and Egyptian culture, the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth. But after its journey across the entire world, after thousands of cultures influenced it and influenced how it evolved, it has changed into different things depending on who you talk to and depending on where the practitioner is within the world and what culture they're from. It is. Yep, exactly. And I know, I hate gatekeeping. Once you start to get into a lot of high esoteric magic and high alchemy, like we are going to get into in this class, you will start to notice the gatekeepiness. I have been part of some cool secret societies, so I'm here to share some very cool gatekept information with all of you. But a lot of it is behind closed doors. And I think it's, in my personal opinion, it's kind of silly that we are keeping these things from the general public, or even just from people who are really interested and want to know. And just because it makes it very, very easy for those things to die off. Obviously, I am not talking about cultural closed practices. That is completely different. If something is a closed practice within a specific culture, that is theirs, and that is completely fine. I am talking about these things like Hermeticism, where it's not because it's one culture's. Hermeticism is something that expands throughout every culture on Earth. And the only reason that it's kept a secret is because people say that you're not like high enough up in the chain of command to know certain things. And I think that's silly. You're not a high enough Mason to know things. You're not high enough. You're not part of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, so you can't know these things. That's, to me, that's silly. But, you know, that's a whole different rant. So, Hermeticism, the 7 Hermetic laws. So I really want to start discussion now so we can all get off mute if you would like to. Obviously, if you have a lot of background noise, please try to stay on mute unless you're specifically talking. But we are going to start with the first 4 laws. The law of mentalism, the law of correspondence, the law of vibration, and the law of polarity. These 7 Hermetic laws are specific laws. These are one of the things that no matter what culture you're from, no matter what form of Hermeticism you practice, no matter what kind of practitioner you are, this is the thing they all have in common. These are the 7 laws. No matter what form of Hermeticism you practice, you must abide by these 7 laws. And it's not even you must abide by them. The universe abides by them. These are the laws of the universe, as told by Hermeticism. These are going to become extremely important when we start practicing alchemy together as a class. And we are going to dive deep into alchemy, start creating alchemical symbols. We are going to start really practicing alchemy. And you are going to need to understand the Hermetic laws in order to understand why alchemy works. So, the law of mentalism. The universe is made up of minds or ideas in minds. What does that mean to you? What do you think that law means? Tell me. Type it into chat or unmute yourself and tell me what you think that means. There are no wrong answers. What do you think it means?
If I'm going to translate it into witchcraft, I would say by using your mind, i.e. your intent, to get what you want.
Awesome. I love that. What if you weren't? What if you were taking it literally and you weren't translating it into witchcraft? What would it mean?
Good versus bad.
Cool. What makes you say that?
Because as individuals, we are capable of both good thought and bad thought. We are capable of good actions and bad action.
Awesome. Thank you. I love that idea. Yes. Let me see in the chat. One sec. We think it, so it is. I love that, Tammy. Yeah. And then Black Sheep said, limited by your own limitations. Are unlimited if positive. I love that. Yes. And yes, Trista, I totally agree. Yeah. Exactly. I completely agree with everything you said. Trista was talking about the gatekeeping cults, and I agree. And then Jordy says, I see it as on a Claire level. We all have minds and ideas within our minds, which controls the universe around us. Oh, I love that. Yes, so that's more along the lines of how I was interpreting it, which, like I said, these laws have been interpreted by thousands of people for thousands of years. There is no wrong answer. Nobody interpreted like you. There are millions of ways to interpret all of these laws, but my interpretation is much closer to what Jordy said, so I love it. My interpretation of this is that the universe is perception. That's all it is. Literally. Our eyes and our brains are perceiving the universe around us, or in other words, our minds. The entire universe is solely and only made up of how we perceive it. Our eyes just perceive light. Light is then translated in our brain. That is it. So the way that we see the universe is not necessarily real. It's not necessarily right. We don't even know if what we're seeing actually exists, and we don't know if we're seeing everything that's there. We're probably not. Everything in the universe is just made up of how our minds perceive it and the ideas that we create through the perception through our perception and through what we see.
So kind of like how people debate if it's the Berenstein Bears or the Bear-Starn Bears, or if Curious George has a tail or not, kind of like that.
Yeah.
Everyone sees it differently.
Yes. And those are based, off of the Mandela effect, which is so cool. But exactly, even the Mandela effect is just based off of perception. And what universe we're in is just based off of perception. And whether or not you think that you can travel to different dimensions, whether or not you think that you have the power to leave your body, or you have the power to be invisible, or that you have the power to do witchcraft, or that you can see spirits or ghosts or jinn or fae, all of it is just the perception of your mind. That's it. It is just your mind deciphering what your eyes are seeing, and your eyes translating light into your brain. That's it. So the universe isn't made up of anything real, and it's not made up of anything not real. It's just all based on our eyes and our five senses and what we can see and hear and smell and touch. That's it. That's all our universe is to us. And people who are blind have a completely different perception of what the world looks like and feels like. And the world is just, and a spider sees the world completely differently than you do, and a bird sees the world completely differently than you do. So every single thing on the planet Earth is just a mind looking at the exact same thing as everyone else's, but seeing something completely different. So the universe is just made up of minds and ideas, and that's it. So the next Hermetic law that we have is the law of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. This is one that definitely came into the witchcraft community. Everybody seems to know this one. But I don't think we talk enough about what it means. what does as above, so below, as below, so above mean? And what does it mean to you? Nice. Black Sheep says it's what's happening right now. Totally. I agree.
To me, correspondence is seeing the unseen, whether that be physically or mentally. To me, again, if I'm translating this into witchcraft, would be how, in order to develop, we do shadow work. We look into the dark recesses to bring light out.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. I love that.
Would it be like as it is here, as it is in heaven?
Yes, I can definitely see that too, for sure. And even just saying that as it is here and so it is in the spirit world, or whatever world that you believe is the other plane of existence, whether that be heaven or whether that just be the spirit world or another dimension. But yeah, exactly.
Same. Yeah, yeah.
Jordy says, from pagan ancestry, my grandmother taught me, as above the ground, life, so it is below. It is pertaining to the cycle of life in this world. Death is just as much a part as life. Yes. Once again, your definition is much closer to the way that I see this. I love it. I feel as though we have heard the same things from our. I also learned all of this. My parents are both pagan, and my grandparents are all pagan. They were born in Syria and Lebanon, and they are the ones who taught me about the Hermetic laws and what they mean. And so a lot of the way that I see the Hermetic laws is definitely from a lot of their teachings and a lot of the books that they recommended for me to read. So, but like I said, none of us are wrong or right. There are millions of ways to interpret these. Nice. Black Sheep says they can hide signs here, but not out of reach signs. Awesome. Trista says, so Hermetic laws are essentially the same thing as the 12 universal laws. They are very similar. The 12 universal laws, the 12 universal laws of the universe that you're talking about came after the Hermetic laws. They were inspired by the Hermetic laws. And Sarah says, in life we are apart, and in death we all get much closer together. Oh, that's beautiful. Yes. Oh, awesome. You're Scandinavian? Oh, that is so cool. So yes, I see the law of correspondence, and the way that I interpret it is that is the cycle of life. So that death and all of the spirit worlds, all of the other dimensions, the world of the Fae, the world of the Jinn, the world of dragons, the world of elves, all of the different dimensions and worlds that exist, as well as the world of the dead, is just as much a part of the universe as the world that we exist, the plane of existence that we live on now. And that us separating it, once again, is just perception. That really there is no separation, that all is one and one is all, and we are all just as much a part of this universe. What we consider to be as below, or the spirit world, or any of those other worlds, there really is no separation between the two, between our world and any other world. Oh, awesome, Sarah. Yes, exactly. The veil is much thinner than we think it is. Yep. So the law of vibration. Nothing is at rest and everything vibrates. This one, this one always just makes me think about how truly brilliant ancient Egyptians and ancient Greeks were when it came to physics and when it came to the universe and the understanding of science, without realizing how truly brilliant they were, without having the same tools that we have to analyze the universe and to be able to understand atoms and to be able to understand protons and neutrons and electrons and matter. But yet, thousands of years ago, they came up with the law of vibration. How do you guys interpret the law of vibration?
Okay, I guess I'm gonna go again.
Yay, awesome.
Okay, so vibration to me is not just about movement, it's about stillness. When they say everything vibrates, everything gives off a frequency. Frequency in itself is generation, be that light, sound, feeling, the wind, the earth, everything vibrates at a certain resonance. And when you talk about vibration, if you take it over to the chakra side and your kundalini, when everything becomes in balance and you get that higher vibration, being able to see spirit, being able to hear spirit, to be with spirit, that to me is what vibration is. It is all encompassing and it is everything.
Awesome. Yes, I agree. Totally. That's how I see this one too. Yeah, does anybody else have any other answers? I love your answer. Let's see. Here we go. So yeah, Jordy says everything is vibration, literally everything. Yep. Sarah says energetically, electrically connected forces in a network above. Yes, for sure. Kim says everything is composed of energy, movement, and stillness relationships. Yes, beautifully said. Trista says that makes sense. I was just reading about the universal laws today. I love these beautiful little synchronicities. Me too. That's awesome. Everything is energy and living. Yes, definitely. And also, so I really have nothing to add. You all said exactly what I would have said, except that I love kind of like what I was saying before. Oh, that is so cool, Paul. So can my sister. My sister has something called synesthesia. And yeah, sound to her appears in colors. So sound to her is a certain color and she can hear color. And yeah.
I have one more to add about that.
Yes, please.
Tesla said that the entire universe is made up of vibration, energy, and frequencies. So it goes
Yes,
along with the law of vibration.
it does. It
Mhm.
really does. And this is one of those ones, like I was saying before, that modern science still agrees with. The law of vibration still exists today in modern science. And another way to think about this is, of course, spiritual vibration, like we have all brought up already. But also, if you learn, in 8th grade science class, that all matter is moving at all times. If it's
Yep.
if it's a solid, it's vibrating. And if it's a liquid, it's moving slowly. The atoms and the particles within the matter. The atoms are moving slowly, and if it's a gas, they're buzzing really, really fast and vibrating and bouncing off of each other. And so literally in chemistry, in matter, this is true. that all things, even if they're a solid, are vibrating at all times. All matter is vibrating literally, not just on a spiritual level.
And there's more space than there is matter.
Exactly.
Atoms
Yep.
are mostly space.
Yep.
So there's mostly, yeah, it's crazy.
It is. It's so crazy when you really start to think about it, that we still haven't been able to really and truly prove why your hand just doesn't go through the dresser. Because,
Right?
like, we can't really
Well,
prove.
it goes down to quantum physics. Like, if you're familiar with the double slit experiment,
Yep.
oh
Exactly.
my God, like, yeah, it behaves differently when it's being observed by consciousness than it does when it's not.
Yep.
Which is amazing. Like, how
It's
does it
so
know?
amazing. And light, when being observed, acts as if it's a particle.
Yep.
Yep. Exactly.
Yep. It's
And
amazing.
it is. When it's not being observed, it acts as a wave. It's
Yep.
crazy. It's
It's like, what? Is it
Yeah.
conscious itself?
So light is conscious.
Right? I know. It's so fascinating.
It really is. Awesome. Okay, I was just reading through the chat. All right, cool. So then we have the law of polarity. Everything is dual. All truths are half truths. Everything contains its opposite. Extremes meet, and every pair of opposites can be reconciled. What does that mean?
That kind of comes back to the yin yang of it. That there's always a balance and an opposite.
Yes. Agreed. Yep.
I don't want.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't like to think of it as as polarity. I like to think of it as duality.
Yes. Awesome. Explain. Go on.
Good versus bad, light versus dark, truth versus lie, justice versus injustice is the
And in
best
that,
way you could put it.
exactly. And in that sense of duality, in that sense of dark versus light or good versus bad, one is needed for the other to exist. So you cannot have dark without light. You cannot have light without dark.
Correct. It's kind of like when people describe themselves as walking on the right-handed path versus the left-handed path. Well, you can't have that without at some point the left and the right path meeting.
Yes. Exactly. And exactly, Sarah, exactly. And same thing with good and evil and justice and injustice and all of the things that duality discusses and talks about. One cannot exist without the other. So if good cannot exist without evil, that is, I think, such a great explanation of the law of polarity. All truths are half truths. Something cannot be truly evil then, if good could not exist without it. And something cannot be truly dark if darkness couldn't exist without light, and light couldn't exist without darkness.
It's kind of like that old saying. It always reminds me of the old saying, cure before you curse, heal before you hex.
Yes.
Can you say that again, please?
Heal before you hex, cure before you curse.
I love that. And yeah, don't worry, Jordy. I'm reading all of them out loud anyway, so.
Can I add one more thing?
Of course.
Isn't the all truths are half truths? That also kind of reminds me of the mentalism, because everyone can see something in a different way, and no one way can be absolutely true.
Yes, exactly. Totally. All truths are half truths because all things are perception. Exactly. Definitely. So then we have the law of rhythm. Rhythm is the measured motion between two extremes. All opposites flow together and into each other. Everything is continually becoming its opposite. Heraclitus said, because everything is in perpetual change, everything is in a continual state of becoming, a cyclic interplay of opposites. So, what does this mean to you? Please, yeah, feel free to read it again since
I'm gonna talk, but my kids are in the background, so that's why I've been quiet. I would say it definitely goes back to the yin and the yang and what we were just discussing as far as with the good comes evil, with the, it's just all a cycle of rhythm.
Yes, exactly.
It's me again. Excuse me. Okay, so when I think about this, I think of circles. The sun rises, the sun sets. The moon rises, the moon sets. People are born, people die. Energy comes, energy goes. It's creation, destruction. It's almost like duality again to me. Thinking, if you want to see a practical example of it, a Newton's cradle.
Yes. Awesome. I love that you brought that up. Totally.
What is Newton's cradle?
Do you want to explain, Paul?
Yeah, okay. So a Newton's cradle is basically a frame that typically nowadays has steel ball bearings on it that are suspended by two equal lengths of string in the middle. And there's normally 7 or 8 of them. And what you would do is you lift one end, and as you let it go, the motion goes through the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth ball, and then it sends the other ball. Yeah. Thank you,
Oh,
Alex.
Yeah.
So that's what's
Got
referred to as a Newton cradle, where you let go of one end and it travels through. But if you grab 2 ball bearings and drop 2 ball bearings on the other side, 2 ball bearings will lift.
Okay. As you started explaining it, I understood. I never knew the name of it. I always knew it as the desk ball thingy.
Yeah.
Isn't it perpetual motion too?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yep.
Cool.
Thank you for the visual, because trying to describe that.
I
And
feel
thank you
like
for
in
the
healing,
explanation.
I feel like in healing, that's the same thing that we do. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Like even it out. You can't just work on one
Balance.
side. Yeah,
Yep.
balancing. Correct.
Definitely. Exactly. That's such a good way of looking at it. And to like put it into a realistic example. There we go. Let me see what the chat has said. Hold on. I like that. No good deed goes unpunished. Yes. Awesome. So yeah, exactly. And once again, I think that everybody really has this one down pretty good. There's not much more I could add, except that, so all opposites flowing into each other. I really like to think of a good example for this one, at least that works in my head, is human lifespans and human aging. And somebody already said, you know, life and death, but even more so when talking about someone being young, they are perpetually in a state of getting older. And we are always perpetually in a moment of change. The only constant in life is change. Everything is always becoming its opposite at all times. So the law of gender. Everything has both masculine and feminine components. Force and energy, yin and yang. So remember when we talk about gender, when we are talking in a metaphysical sense, it has nothing to do with boy and girl. We are talking about two forms of energy that exist in the world. And a really wonderful way to put it, which I love that the Hermetic laws describe it in this way, of force and energy. And so we're not talking about, you know, the idea of being feminine or being masculine. It is this idea of two huge energy forces existing, and everything on earth having both of them within us and within all things. But what is
If
the
I-
law? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. This is going to get kind of freaky here, but when I think of the law of gender, I think of the moon and the sun. Moon representing the female, the sun representing the energy. And I also think of the ocean, because we all know oceans and the tides and the currents are all dealt with by the moon. However, clouds and evaporation of water dealt with by the sun. So I always like to think of the moon and the sun when I think of the law of gender.
I love that. That's a fantastic.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And it's about finding the balance between the two.
Yes, definitely. Paul, I think Sarah would like you to repeat what you said or type it out.
Yeah, sure. I think of it as the moon and the sun. The moon being the female element, the sun being the male element. And then I also, when people ask me to describe that, I describe it by looking at the oceans, the rivers, tides, and things like that are controlled by the moon. Yet weather, i.e. evaporation, rain, that kind of thing, are typically dealt with by the sun. So I use weather as a representation, but I also bring in the moon and the sun, if that helps.
Thank you.
Awesome. Does anybody else have anything to add about the law of gender? Oh, sweet. Jordy says, that is also what I see it as, Paul, but also finding the balance within ourselves and not focusing on our gender roles. We have been programmed to follow in society in this day, but rather accepting and understanding the male and female energies we all must have within ourselves. Awesome. I love that, Jordy.
Well,
Thank
I have something to add to that too, actually. And you know, I mean, believing or knowing about reincarnation, that we reincarnate as either or, depending on, you know, what life we choose. And so we really have experienced both those sides at one point or another. And so, yeah, I mean, we're equally both, I suppose.
Yeah. Definitely. Yep. Exactly.
So kind of in a very, I don't know, physical way to explain this, kind of like the masculine would be a gut punch versus a hug versus feminine would be a hug. We both experience those feelings of want to hug or punch someone.
True. Opposite. Opposites again.
Awesome. So that one kind of flows into, like what you said, totally kind of flows into the law of cause and effect. Nothing happens by chance. For every effect, there is a cause, and every cause is in itself an effect of something else.
Mhm.
So what does that mean to you?
Like the butterfly effect.
Yes, I love it. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one thing we don't understand. Like even just a comment to somebody could have like drastic consequences down the line, like, you know, depending on how that person took it, what kind of day they're having, you know. I mean, yeah, we just never know how powerful the smallest, what we see is might be a small thing, could end up being like becoming a huge thing throughout generations, you know. And it seemed like nothing to us. We seem very unaware of that.
Yes, definitely. Every single thing that we do has a much bigger effect and impact than we think that it does.
Absolutely. Yeah. And because I feel like our five senses that we were taught growing up, how we interact with the world is just our you know, in a physical way with the five physical senses. I feel like that's like 10% of how we interact with the world. And the other 90 is actually energetically that we are just now starting to learn.
Yep. I agree.
And so even every thought has some sort of effect because it's energy that you're directing somewhere, you know, whether it's negative or positive, you know, it's going to have an effect in some way. Same thing, you know, when you verbalize that thought, like it gives it more power. And yeah, it's definitely something we need to study more for sure.
Yeah. And I think definitely that's true when it comes to the Western world. I think that many cultures, especially indigenous cultures from both North America and from all over the world, have had a huge understanding of this for a very long time. And
For
it got
sure.
lost in translation in Western culture.
Or just hidden because they, you know.
Yeah, or hidden due to power and religion and
Exactly.
all of those fun things.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's me again. Okay, cause and effect. As it said, nothing happens by chance. For every effect, there is a cause, and for every cause in itself, there's an effect of something else. Prime example: you as a human being, if you don't breathe, you die. You have to inhale in order to get oxygen to your lungs, but if you don't exhale, you're going to suffocate, which means death. So going back to duality, cause and effect, law of rhythm, it all ties in. But I always, when I'm trying to explain the hermetic laws to somebody, I always use that as an example as a human body, or the other one in that it takes two people to have an argument.
Mhm.
One person can raise their voice and the other can stay silent and not react, but listen, or the other person can react.
Mhm.
Therefore, you have cause and effect, which in turn causes more cause and effect and brings in the other laws, vibration, rhythm, gender, yada, yada, yada.
Yes, that's a really awesome example. I really like that.
Yeah, they're all very interconnected.
Definitely. And Crystal says, yes, but it's kind of like interweb and oneness as well,
Mhm.
along with duality. Yes,
Yep.
I agree, Crystal, for sure.
Totally.
And yeah, we even have in physics, in modern science, that, you know, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And we are
Right.
understanding just, and even that just with something like force, when you place force upon an item, there is an effect. And but that goes even deeper. And with all things, nothing happens by chance, that there was always a cause. And that doesn't necessarily mean, I think that a lot of people really judge the law of cause and effect, because it's saying that, you know, if absolutely nothing happens by chance, then babies getting cancer and stuff happen for a reason. And I don't think that, at least in my opinion, that the law of cause and effect is saying that it was something or someone's fault. It is saying that there is a reason. It wasn't by chance that
Right.
the, you know, that the baby or child got cancer due to something that happened, due
The
to
corporation that was poisoning the water that the mother drank while she was pregnant. Yeah. Something like that.
or even just the cells in the body and one cell multiplying wrong, and that having a cause and effect action on the body and on the human,
Exactly.
and that it there is a cause and effect for all things that happen in this universe.
Yeah. There's no such thing as coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Coincidences happen when your guides are trying to say something to you and you don't listen.
Exactly.
And that in itself is a cause and effect. So
That's
even
a
that,
synchronicity to me. Like the only coincidence is like you wore the same shirt as your friend, like, you know, to a party or whatever. That's about as far as a coincidence can go. Anything beyond that is divine intervention for sure.
and even, yeah, even wearing the same shirt as your friend to a party, there was still a cause and effect there.
Because you're on
Yeah,
the same wavelength.
yeah, you're both thinking the same thing.
Exactly.
So now we are going to get in to a very large topic. So there's been lots of large topics today. Oh, here, so Crystal says, we plan all of this before we come. The child who is sick has planned to come here to support your role as the parent going through it. So there are so many levels of this. I agree. There are a lot of levels to this. And there's a lot of
Oh, yeah.
levels too, depending on your belief system and everything that you believe. As I said, it can be as simple as the cause and effect of a mutated cell in the body, and that's just science. A cell mutated, and that is the cause. Therefore, the effect is cancer. That is just the cause and effect when it comes to blank logic and science. You can bring that to a much more spiritual level, all depending on what you believe in. So, the emerald tablets. So first of all, who's heard of the emerald tablet?
I just heard about them.
Oh, awesome. Good.
I'm not entirely sure what they are, though.
Well, good. We're going to learn. Yeah, I figured, Paul.
Where did I hear that? What was that?
Okay, so I really love this one creator, and I thought it'd be fun to watch a short video. We watched a video from her last class. She doesn't believe, like, I don't believe in all of the same things that she does, but some of you might, and some of you might connect with her more. But I love the way that she explains alchemy and the way that she explains the Emerald Tablet.
Create, manage, and grow your
my gosh.
business with Wix.com.
Yes, thank
Your
you.
website is the
Okay. Okay.
I'm AD, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about the Emerald Tablet, which is a coded breakdown of the tenets of alchemy, which was actually discovered in the tomb of Hermes Trismegistus. If you want to learn more about Hermes Trismegistus, definitely check out my videos, Alchemy for Beginners and As Above, So Below. I'll also be working on more videos about the different lives of Hermes, but I still need so much more research on these, so please bear with me. I'm going to be reading from this book here, and it's actually a translation from various philosophers and occultists and people that were interested in learning more about alchemy. So they translated them, and we have a lot of translations in here, but I actually prefer the one by Sir Isaac Newton because I feel like it's probably the easiest translation to understand and decode. So I'm going to be reading from that for you guys, and then I'm going to decode it all for you. It's true without lying, certain and most true. That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to do the miracles of the one thing. And as all things have been and arose from the one by the meditation of one, so all things have their birth from this one thing by adaptation. The sun its father, the moon its mother. The wind hath carried it in its belly, the earth its nurse. The father of all perfection in the whole world is here. Its force or power is entire if converted into the earth. Separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, sweetly and with great industry. It ascends from the earth to the heaven, and again it descends to the earth and receives the force of all things superior and inferior. By this means you shall have the glory of the whole world, and thereby all obscurity shall fly from you. Its force is above all force, for it vanquishes every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing. So the world was created. From this are and do come admirable adaptations, whereof the means or process is here in this. Hence I am called Hermes Trismegistus, having the three parts of the philosophy of the whole world. That which I have said of the operation of the sun is accomplished and ended. So when you hear this, it's like, wait, what are you saying? This is supposed to be alchemy? Like, wait, you're not giving me specific things. Like this world right now today is all about giving us specific things. Like we need this here right now. We need to understand it. But the thing about alchemy is the fact that it's all a coded language. And to understand the code, you have to understand more about alchemy, which is why I'm making this alchemy series so that you guys can understand alchemy as a whole. But before I go into more about the Emerald Tablet, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, which is Keen. Keen is an app that provides access to vetted psychics and spiritual advisors, provide guidance and insight, and it's one of the most affordable ways to get instant psychic readings by a professional at any time. They have so many different types of readings, such as past love, relationship, live tarot readings, astrologers, Spanish psychic readers, and so much more. When you sign up, you'll complete a brief questionnaire, which will pair you with a list of recommended psychics. You can choose to either text. You can also have an ongoing relationship with your advisor for monthly intention setting, gaining clarity on significant cleansing, and so much more. They also send online promotions on a weekly basis, such as getting a $5 on a weekly basis. It's so much more affordable when you need to connect with an advisor on a regular basis. It's so much better than seeing a psychic in person, which can cost a fortune. I'm one of those people who needs to know everything about and give you a little bit more insight on what you need. If you use my link, trykeen.com, the first 3 minutes with your advisor for free. It's also linked in the description box below. Okay, so now back to the Emerald Tablet. So we're going to go to the first part. That which is above is like that which is below, and that which is below is like that which is above, to do the miracles of the only one thing. So this is basically an explanation of humanity's connection to the cosmos. It's the above and below, which is the microcosm and the macrocosm, and how the cosmos is reflected in humans. I actually mentioned more about this in detail in my As Above, So Below video, so definitely check out that video for more information on this. And as all things have been and arose from the one by meditation of the one, so all things have their birth from the one thing by adaptation. When it says from one thing by the meditation of one, it's basically referencing the law of one, which is the notion that everything came from one and everything is connected. It's the prima materia, which is the first matter in alchemy. The sun is its father, the moon is its mother. This is the sun and the moon as the alchemical marriage, the union of opposites to create a balanced whole and the ultimate spiritual transformation, which is further described in the following passages. The wind hath carried it in its belly, and the earth its nurse. Part one of this is actually the process of separation and purification using the element of air, the rediscovery of our essence or our intuition. This is letting go of impure, unwanted material. And part 2 is a process of conjunction and working with the element of earth, the marriage of the sun and the moon for grounding. The father of all perfection in the world is here. This is the presence of the cosmos throughout the entire process of transformation. Its force or power is entire if it be converted into the earth. Again, the earth as a grounding element. Separate thou earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, sweetly and with great industry or ingenuity. This is the process of fermentation and leaving the earthly realm by the inspirational willpower of fire, which transforms and frees your soul of prejudice and vice, while separating the mind and the body. This process actually changes your characteristics and raises you to a whole new level of being, which is experienced during the 2 stages of fermentation, which are putrefaction and spiritization. It also notes that you should do this carefully because these 2 processes are very difficult. Putrefaction breaks you down in order to raise you to a higher vibration during spiritization, which allows you to ultimately see the world in a whole nother light. It ascends from the earth to the heaven, and again it descends to earth and receives the force of all things superior and inferior. This notes the process of distillation, the sublimation of psychic forces necessary to ensure no impurities are incorporated into the final process. It releases volatile essences and can be done multiple times to perfect. By this means, you shall have the glory of the whole world, and thereby all obscurity shall fly from you. This is the process of coagulation, the final alchemical process, and the ultima materia, which is the last matter. This is the resurrection of the soul, the purest essences of the body, and the union of spirit with matter. Its force is above all force, for it fingers everything and penetrates every solid thing. This is the philosopher's stone, or the azog, which possesses all powers concealed in nature. It penetrates all and can conquer any subtle thing and penetrate any solid. According to Paracelsus, it's the counterpoison to any physical, mental, or spiritual threat. It's the elixir of life. So the world was created, which is pretty self-explanatory. From this there are and do come admirable adaptations where the means or process is here in this. Again, this is why this happened. Hence, I am called Hermes Trismegistus, having the 3 parts philosophy of the whole world. Hermes Trismegistus means Hermes thrice great, and he embodies the 3 parts philosophies. Alchemists believe that human construction is threefold in nature, which consisted of sulfur, which represented the soul, mind, and fire, salt, which was the body and earth, and mercury, which represented the spirit, air, and water. That which I have said of the operations of the sun is accomplished and ended. According to Hermes, these are the operations of the sun god Ra. Hermes, who was also known as Thoth to the Egyptians, took part in the creation of the world as we know it, and turned the thoughts of Ra into material objects. He was a scribe and a messenger of the gods, and relayed divine messages to humans on earth. So that's all I have for you guys today. Let me know in the comments below if this helped you guys decode more of the alchemical mysteries of the Emerald Tablet. And remember to sign up for Keen because it's such an amazing app that can help you out in so many different ways.
Okay. So, back to hold on. Okay. No, this is not what I wanted to do. Okay, so the Emerald Tablets. Now, once again, as you hear me say in my classes a lot, if you've attended many of my classes, something happened with the Emerald Tablets, which is extremely unfortunate and happens a lot when we talk about esoteric things. You will notice that for some strange reason, they attribute Hermes Trismegistus as the author of the Emerald Tablet, which is a text, and she read you bits and pieces of the text that is said to explain the laws of the universe and is said to explain how to make the Philosopher's Stone, which we are going to get into. The Philosopher's Stone is a whole thing. We're going to get into that. But the Emerald Tablets not only explain how to make the Philosopher's Stone, but also the secret and meanings to life. And the Emerald Tablet also explains how to do alchemy, how to change matter, how to turn things into gold, how to change all different forms of matter using symbols. Now, I always find it interesting how they say that this was created by Hermes Trismegistus, but yet Hermes Trismegistus translated it from Arabic. So how on earth could it have been created by him if it was translated from Arabic? Which also, Hermes Trismegistus is also a figure that may or may not even technically have been one singular person. He could have been. Anyway, there's a lot. We're going to learn a lot. There's so much to this. But the real place that the Emerald Tablet comes from, as paleontologists and anthropologists have discovered, which should have been extremely obvious when you realize that the text had to be translated from Arabic, is actually ancient Arabia. And also ancient Egypt, and it made its way from ancient Arabia through ancient Egypt into ancient Greece. But the origins of the tablets are Arabic, which my family taught me. And also, you could just like look it up, and Wikipedia says the same thing, that all the tablets were translated from Arabic, which obviously means they were written in Arabic countries. I don't know why we insist on giving credit solely and only to Europeans, but whatever. So I guess I do know why, but it sucks and it's stupid. So the Emerald Tablets, she explained parts that are written in them. And we are going to go over how the Emerald Tablet explains the Philosopher's Stone, what the Philosopher's Stone is, and all the other things that the Emerald Tablet explains. We're also going to go over the original text in Arabic and talk about the translations that were made and how some of the translations were made poorly, because this is another one of those texts, much like a lot of ancient religious texts, such as the Bible, that were translated so many times into so many different languages that a lot of it is disputed, and that some of it got lost in translation. So we are going to look at the original Arabic text and look at how it translates directly from Arabic. And even then, some words in Arabic just can't be translated into English, or in this case, it was translated into Greek and Latin. But yes, so the Emerald Tablets did not originate in Greece or in Egypt. They originated in the Middle East. Right? Who would have known? Appropriation in ancient alchemy? What? But yeah, that was a lot. It totally is a lot. Oh, by the way, when I said that we were going to do that, I meant in this course as a whole. Class is almost over, don't worry. In this course as a whole, we are going to do all of that. Not tonight. We're not going to translate the entirety of the Emerald Tablets tonight. But we are going to do that. So what we are going to do tonight is watch one more video, and then we are going to look at some alchemical symbols that relate to everything we have been talking about. And as homework for you guys tonight, I am going to have you create a talisman. And hopefully, if you attend the next class, we can share our talismans. That's all we're going to do tonight. Class is only going to be about 15 more minutes. So, as I promised you in the beginning of class, we are going to be watching a clip from one of my favorite animes called Full Metal Alchemist. And it's beautiful. And in my opinion, which is actually pretty funny, this clip in Full Metal Alchemist almost explains the parts of the Emerald Tablet that she was reading better than reading from the Emerald Tablet by Isaac Newton, like she was. But you tell me what you think. So this is another way to very, 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 very simply describe that first paragraph of the Emerald Tablets. Do you know the one I'm going to show? I'm so excited. I love this clip so much.
I'm still alive. I'm alive because I ate the ants. It's because I consumed life. I'm still alive. We're not going to die. I'm sorry. Just keep going a little longer. Tomorrow will be 1 month. Hey, brother. Have you figured out what teacher meant by one is all and all is one? I've been thinking about it this whole time, but I still only have a few vague ideas. I'm not really sure about this. But do you remember when I was weak from hunger? I ate those ants? You ate a lot of them. I sure did. And boy, did they taste nasty. But then that got me thinking. If I hadn't eaten them, I might have died. Then I would have been eaten by them. They'd go into the earth and become grass. And the rabbits would eat that. You're talking about the food chain, right? Yeah, but it's not just that either. A long time ago, this whole island was probably at the bottom of the sea. And tens of thousands of years from now, it could be the peak of a mountain for all we know. All things are connected. Is that what you're saying? Everything we see, everyone we meet, is caught up in a great unseen flow. But it's bigger than that. It's the entire world, the entire universe even. Compared to something as big as that, Al, you and I are tiny, not even the size of ants. We're only one small part within the much greater flow. Nothing more than a fraction of the whole. But by putting all those ones together, you get one great all, just like teacher said. The flow of this universe follows laws of such magnitude that you and I can't even imagine them.
So cool. Okay. No, stop. Okay. Right? So great. I love it. Oh, good. You guys, if you're into alchemy and you like anime, Full Metal Alchemist. It's very, very good. Aw, of course. So, you need to watch FMA. It's so good. Also, if you guys are into alchemy and you're looking for an anime that displays alchemy and magic in a real way, Mushishi is also brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant. I use that one for classes too. Yeah, you should. It's really good. So we are going to go back to slide 1. Now that you understand alchemy in a whole new way, / probably understand how complicating alchemy is. do remember that when we're talking about alchemy in these classes, you're going to get confused before you understand. Alchemy is a huge topic. It is enormous, and I would feel wrong if I just came in here, told you guys a bunch of alchemical symbols, and just started casting spells with them. Like, I would feel like I did you an injustice. There is so much more that you need to understand about the universe and about why this works and about so much more. It is so much more than putting together some symbols and doing some chemistry. So much more. So you're going to get confused first, and then I promise it'll all come together. So let me see if I can. Shouldn't I be able to? No? Okay. It's not going to let me zoom in. So hopefully this is big enough on your computer. Because for some reason it won't let me zoom in, which is annoying. So these are very basic. These are very basic, and also these are very based in European alchemy, but that's where we're going to start. And the reason that we are going to start there and then move into Arabic alchemy is because the symbols in European alchemy are going to make more sense and be things that you have seen before if you live in the Western world. If you don't live in the Western world, and we have some people in here who possibly live in the continent of Asia or the continent of Africa, then the ones that we go over next week are going to make more sense to you. But these ones are the ones that people who live in the Western side of the world have probably seen before and are going to be more familiar. So the first things that we are going to start with to make your talisman. I think I can bring up I think I have to stop sharing to bring it up. Aha, here we go. So please remember that all of you can write on this whiteboard. So if you have examples and you want to show something off, cool, but don't squiggle on it for fun. So first we are going to start, oh, no, not with that, with a pencil. Cool. No, pencil. Okay. So first we are going to start with the symbol for fire. So whenever you are practicing, doing spell work, doing ritual work, doing anything that you do in your own personal magic practice, this is a academy for witchcraft. I am assuming that all of you practice witchcraft. If not, then maybe you're starting to. So if you are practicing and doing any spells or doing any rituals, we are going to learn how to bring a talisman into our ritual and into our spell to help enhance that spell. So what is something that just and solely and only the symbol for fire would help to enhance? What type of spell or magic or anything at all? Oh, good. I'm glad you can zoom in the presentation yourselves. Awesome. Thank you for telling me that.
If you're doing any planetary work, for instance, with Mars.
Yes. That's a great one. I love it. What else?
Or when you're using your cauldron.
Perfect. Yes, that's a great one. Thank you, Paul.
maybe a spell of motivation, movement.
Yes. Perfect. I love it. Let me look at the chat. The sun. Yes, when you're doing a ritual to welcome in the sun or anything that has to do with the sun, creativity and passion and love. I love it, Alex. Awesome. Yes. And transformation. Fantastic. This would also be great for divination work. If you are working with tarot cards, if you are working with palm reading or runes or any form of divination work, fire is also wonderful as well.
And letting go of stuff.
Yeah, I could definitely see fire being fantastic for that. It would definitely be letting go in a very powerful way. You really, really want to let go of them. But yeah, for
Or
sure.
banishment.
Yeah, exactly. It would be closer to banishment than letting go. But yeah, totally.
I also use, and this is just me personally, but as well as earth, I also use fire when I'm creating black salt.
Oh, I love that. That is awesome. Does anyone have anything else for fire? What about, oops, of course. Oh well, we'll just connect it. We're making an upside down triangle. It's going to be bad because for some reason that side of the screen doesn't like to be drawn up. But it's an upside down triangle for water. What kinds of spells could water help us out with or would enhance?
When you're doing things to do with movement or witch's bottle, if it contains water in there, and obviously when you're making your moon water, sun water, dawn water, so on and so forth.
Yes, beautiful, perfect. And yeah, for healing, clarity, rejuvenation, perfect. Like everybody said in the chat. Yes.
Cleansing, like cleansing bath, cleansing showers. You know, I like to take a shower and steam and cleanse my aura while I'm doing all of that. I use a lot of water for that.
Yes. Awesome. Perfect. And then
Side note on this, with regards to ritual showers, I have the little bags that you sometimes get crystals in. I actually have where I've hand sewn the symbol of water on there, and I put that over the shower head and allow the water to come through the bag with the herbs and spices in onto me.
that's an awesome idea. Thank you. I love that. Then we have the symbol for air, which is the triangle with the line. The line would be more a little bit further down, but the whiteboard is hard. So, but yes, so we have the symbol for air. What would a symbol for alchemical air help us with? What rituals would it help us with and help to enhance? Slash spells, slash whatever. Thinking and ideas. Yes, I love it, Alex. Energy flow. Yes. Awesome.
Communication.
Yes. Brilliant. Definitely.
Physical movements.
Yeah, for sure. Physical movement would probably be both. I could see both air or fire for that one, for sure. Spiritual connection, totally. I could see that with water or air. Projection, totally. Yes. Networking, yeah.
Learning.
Learning, that is perfect. Yes, definitely. Learning, knowledge, wisdom, education, yeah, for sure. Words, yes. Like before reading all those slides to you, maybe it would have helped if I used the symbol for air and drew it on my hand or something, or had it on my computer so that I didn't fumble over every word. Casting for sure. Creating incantations, definitely. And then we have the symbol for earth, which would be putting the line on the upside down triangle. What would earth help us to enhance?
Everybody's favorite of grounding.
Yes, definitely. Yep, grounding. Everybody said grounding. Beautiful. Yes. With earth, we also have all of our lovely material things. You also have, rituals for if you want to buy a new house or afford a new car or do better at your job and get a promotion. Independence and wealth and stability. Staying in touch with Mother Earth. Yes, ancestry, metals and tools. Love it. Yes.
Family,
Family.
connection, growing those roots and really staying connected with everyone. And I think all of the elements are really good for cleansing. You can use all of them for cleansing.
Yes, I agree. It just depends on what type of cleansing, but for sure, definitely. Gridding is a great one.
But animals count?
Yes, for sure. Oh, yes. And health too. So like the health of your animals, the health of your family, the physical health and well-being of yourself and others, including your pets or all animals. Stability. Yes. Definitely. So then we have, this one might be a little bit trickier. Let's see if you guys know what this would help to enhance. So what if we have, gosh, what's wrong with your finger, man? But we have this one, which now just kind of looks like an upside down stick figure, but this is supposed to be an arrow. There. So this is the symbol for Mars. Does anybody know what the planet Mars helps to enhance in our witchcraft and our magic?
My understanding of Mars is like your energy, your movement. It can also be your anger, how you express emotions, motivation, all of that very fast moving energy that we contain.
Yes, definitely, for sure. And I love we have in the chat motivation and action and masculine energy. Totally. Yes. For this one that I love too, if you guys ever want to rebel against the government, put some Mars in there.
Okay, and I'm probably going to be revealing my alchemy nerd here, but to me, Mars means iron.
Yes, beautiful. I love it. Yep, definitely. Yes, if you guys, any spells, I actually happen to do a lot of activist spells. And Mars is a great one to bring in if you are trying to start a revolution, if you are trying to rebel against the status quo and all of those things. Mars is a great one to bring into your work. So I'm going to clear, we're going to do 2 more, and then we're going to talk about how to make the talisman for your homework. And yes, Aries, for sure. Yes. My birthday was actually 2 days ago, and I'm a Sagittarius and filled with all of that beautiful fire energy. I love Sagittarius. How do I erase? Do I really have to do it? I thought there was like a button I could push that would just erase the whiteboard. Maybe not. We'll just do it like that. Oh, that was much faster than I thought it'd be. Cool. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So the next one that we have. Oh, am I gonna have room? Nope. Okay. Erase. Just kidding. Gotta make a smaller line. Okay. There we go. Whee! Awesome. We have the symbol for Venus. What can Venus help us with in our magic?
How you love relationships, loving yourself, self-love.
Yes, beautiful. Exactly.
Nurturing, caring, but is the same thing as love, I guess.
No, that's perfect. Nurturing is wonderful. Yes.
Hi, it's me again. Okay, so when I think of Venus, the first thing that comes to mind is Leonardo da Vinci.
Ooh, go on.
The Berturian man is based on Venus.
Yes.
And obviously the other stuff like love and all the rest of it. But when people say Venus, I automatically think Leonardo da Vinci.
I love that. What an amazing, yes, totally. I love that. And yeah, feminine energy for sure. Maternal energy, definitely. Fertility would also be a great one too. And then I'm actually going to do two on here really quick. So we're going to have this one. And we also have this one, which should look more like a triangle made with circles, but I tried. Okay. So we have the one on the right, the circle with the line through it, and that is our beautiful symbol for salt. And we have the one on the left with the 3 circles, and that is our wonderful symbol for oil. So, what about salt? What does salt bring into our rituals?
Protection.
Yes, protection.
Cleansing,
Yep.
and it's an earth element.
Yes, beautiful. Yep.
And if you're a kitchen witch, it brings in all those beautiful flavors coming together. And you can't cook without salt.
Yes,
Yep.
I love it.
I'm a saltaholic. You got me there, yeah.
Yes, salt.
Would
So,
that now would that also be a water element though? Because like most of the earth is covered in salt water.
I would say that salt is very much usually a symbol for earth, but it does have a lot
That's
of
what I
the
thought.
properties of water. So I could totally see that
Hmm.
because salt, its properties are, you know, cleansing and protection and a lot of things that water brings to you as well. So yes, I could see.
Sure. Okay. Cool.
Okay, going back to something you said earlier on about the triprimer.
Yep.
Salt represents body, non-combustibility, and non-volatility.
Yes, good job. Remembering what we did previously in class. I love it. Thank you. Yes. And also something to remember too, the reason that we are also working with these talismans. Now, of course, most people in their house are going to have salt, probably. But if you are trying to do a ritual and you realize that for a specific part, of the spell, that salt is required and you do not have salt. Bringing your salt talisman is also a wonderful way to bring salt into your ritual if you don't have any.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then we have oil. What does oil bring into our ritual work?
Anointing.
Ooh, good one.
Mhm.
Yes. Oil is also a great symbol for transmutation, for transformation, as well as travel and astral projection.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
I feel like oil is a binder too. Like, gonna go kitchen witchy again, but like you need that fat to bind everything together, to bring it together to flow when you're doing candle magic and you're anointing, and you put that on there, and you're putting your herbs, and it binds it all together. To me, it's a binder. It enhances.
Yes, definitely, for sure.
Okay, me again, nerdy time again. When you talk about salts and then you talk about oil, I immediately think spagarics.
Ooh, I love
But
it.
that's a whole different conversation.
Yes, it is.
But it does also relate to oil,
It
because
does.
obviously you have the oil of. Anyway, that's for a different class.
We are going to be getting to all of these gigantic, huge topics within alchemy. By the end of this course, you guys are all going to be fantastic alchemists. I am so excited. So for your homework, you saw in the presentation, let me see if I can make the whiteboard disappear. I always... Okay. Oh, close whiteboard. Wow, Alex. Okay. So we want to go back here. So you're going to use this first page of this presentation. I'm actually going to send all of you this presentation at the end of class. So make sure you get it first, because it won't be on the website for a couple days. So I'm going to send it to you now so you have this, so you can do your homework, and also so you have it so you can study and remember what we learned in class today. So you have this very rudimentary beginner's guide to alchemical symbols. And I want you to pick anything that you want to create your talisman out of. If you want to walk outside and just find a really nice rock or a really nice piece of wood, that's wonderful. If you want to cut out a piece of cloth, if you want to use a piece of cardboard, I would suggest using something that'll last longer than cardboard, but you know, whatever you have. I would suggest a rock or a piece of wood. And draw one of these symbols on the rock, and then, or whatever, on the item that you chose. And then sit with that symbol in your hands and meditate. Any way that you want, any way that you know how to meditate. That can be staring into a candle flame, that can be sitting down with your eyes closed, that can be laying down with your eyes closed, that could be even walking and going on a walk alone, silently, while holding your rock. or whatever you chose to put your symbol on. And when you come back to class, I want you to describe and talk about how the talisman made you feel. What did it make you see during your meditation? How did it make you feel during your meditation? How did it make your physical body feel? How did it make your mental? How did it make you feel mentally, physically, emotionally? All of those things. Maybe write it down and bring it to class, or even just come to class with your talisman and talk about what the meditation was like. Whatever it is, draw a symbol onto something and meditate with it in whichever way you would like to meditate, and come back with a story.
And you said just on whatever, like a rock or a piece of wood or.
Yep, exactly. And you can also draw it with whatever you would like. A lot of alchemists like to use, so like stain, so taking like rose petals or an herb and breaking them down and using that as ink. Or you can just use a Sharpie, you know, it's fine. Or if you want to get fancy, you can use like dragon's blood ink, or whatever you would like to use as ink. If you want to cut your finger and use blood, you know, you can do that. I didn't tell you to do that though. If you can use whatever your heart desires to draw the symbol onto, whatever you would like to draw it onto. Oh, good. I'm glad you like the homework. I love doing this, and this is such a wonderful way to just make a really, really, really simple talisman. As we go on, we are going to make intense, crazy talismans. We are going to talk about using gigantic, huge spreads of multiple symbols that you stand in the middle of so that you can transfer yourself into a different dimension. We are going to learn how to transform different elements into something else using alchemy. It's going to get crazy and intense, but we are going to start with a very simple talisman and a very simple meditation.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you guys can see me, but I have my dreads, and I'm gonna use one of my little rocks and minerals for this. That's why I was like, oh, I love this. I love this.
Awesome. Yay. Oh, good. I am so glad. And yes, you can definitely draw it on paper. That's totally fine, Paul. But, you know, paper won't last a long time. I guess you could make paper last a long time. It has the potential if you take care of it. Yeah, thank you, Alex. I always welcome other resources. Thank you so much. Oh, yes, totally. You can use different forms of paper. Here, wait, hold on. Before anybody goes, let me send you a copy of the slideshow so that you have it. One sec. Anyone with the link? Copy link. Okay. Ooh, nice. I love, that's a good idea. Okay, so here's the link to the slideshow that we just all had, so that you guys can review it after class. And I hope to see you all next week. This class will, it should be next Sunday again, but you'll see it posted on the same page. And I will see you all next week for class. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, of course. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
And
see you next
Thank
week.
you.
if you guys would like to get enrolled in the Academy, don't forget to send me a message on Facebook. Send this page, our Facebook page, a message.
Awesome.
Thank you. I'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your week.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Alex, if I can just say, talking as an alchemist to you, thank you so much. You've given me so much inspiration.